The American President Joe Biden has said that a deal may in fact be on the way with Saudi Arabia. Biden, however, has not given out any details about the possible deal. The deal requires a massive security pact between Washington and Riyadh, and this comes after talks that his national security advisor Jake Sullivan had with the Saudi officials in Jeddah. The Sullivan's visit aims at normalizing ties between Saudi Arabia and the State of Israel. The United States has sought to reach an agreement between long-time adversaries, but the Saudis have been pretty resistant. And according to the White House, Jake Sullivan met with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and other senior Saudi officials to discuss bilateral and regional matters. The talks included initiatives to advance a common vision for a more peaceful, secure, prosperous and stable West Asia region, interconnected with the world. The White House has further added that Jake Sullivan will also review some significant progress to build on the benefits of truce in Yemen that have endured for the past 16 months. Now, observers say that Riyadh has for long been seeking a NATO-like mutual security treaty that would obligate the United States to come to its defense if the latter were to be attacked. In exchange, the United States is looking for Riyadh to offer an unprecedentedly large aid package to the Palestinian institutions in the West Bank. All this with Riyadh's growing relationship with China. All right, now to give us more insights in terms of what, of course, is cooking between the United States and Saudi Arabia, we're being joined by Mr. Edward P. Joseph, who's a senior fellow at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies and is also a foreign policy analyst. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. So thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. Now, this is an interesting development that has come forth where it is being said that a deal is on the cards between the United States and Saudi Arabia. What do you think will be the nature of this deal?
Well, first, I think we should say that it's the beginnings of a potential deal. It's not that a deal is right now in the cards, but it's quite interesting, quite significant, potentially transformative deal. But this is just the very preliminary stages, this first step, this significant visit that you described, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan coming to Saudi Arabia to explore this possibility of a game changer in the Middle East. This would be change the nature of the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the United States, between Saudi Arabia and Israel, and also would have significant, presumably very positive implications for Israel's relations with Palestinians. So that's the nature of it. But because of that, because it's a three-part component in that sense, it's complicated. Right. And it is not clear that the Saudis and the United States will be able to come to terms. Obviously, Saudi Arabia will be wanting things from the United States in exchange for normalizing relations with Israel. Israel will have its own concerns and questions, and the United States will have its own questions and demands of both parties, both the Saudis and the Israelis.
You know, the Israel and Palestine aspect of this deal, I'll just come to that. But before that, you know, the question that a lot of people will be talking about, the issue that a lot of people will, of course, be mulling upon, is the fact that just a few months back, China had been successful in facilitating an agreement between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Do you think that is playing at the back of mind for the people in the United States of America who would now be more willing than before? Because Joe Biden was not someone who was very warm towards Mohammed bin Salman. But now, do you think the fact that the Chinese are actively pursuing their diplomacy in the region, they've been successful in facilitating talks and a deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran, so the United States is more willing to now come forth and do a deal with Mohammed bin Salman?
I think, in fact, that there are two drivers to this, and I think your question is a very good one. That China is definitely an impetus for the United States, for the Biden administration, to make this effort. That this is going to be a big effort. This is time-consuming. It will involve political risk, and you're absolutely correct that China is part of this. I don't know if the bigger component is Chinese diplomacy. I'm not so sure it's that. Rather, the nature of the Saudi relationship with China and the willingness of the Saudis to conduct business as the Chinese would like in Chinese currency, to sell oil in Chinese currency. So the nature of the Saudi-Chinese relationship is definitely a concern to the United States, and that would definitely be a component curtail that relationship as part of this deal if it comes to fruition. The other element, of course, is in Israel.
Right.
And we know we have this, what is President Biden himself has said, the most right-wing Israeli government. Mm-hmm. And we should point out here that it was the threat of annexation under a previous Benjamin Netanyahu government that actually was the basis, the catalyst for the Trump-Abraham Accords. It was that the United Arab Emirates moved forward with normalization, open relations, recognition of Israel in exchange for Israel moving back and away from annexation of the West Bank. Please.
All right, very interesting. My last quick final question to you, Mr. Joseph, is the Saudis most likely are looking for some kind of a NATO-like mutual security treaty with the United States of America, and if that were to be given, probably they would be more willing to normalize their relations with the state of Israel. Is this something that the United States would be wanting to, in fact, get into a treaty with the Saudis?
Well, this would have to be a core component of the agreement. I think without a mutual defense treaty between the United States and Saudi Arabia, there's no deal. The question is, what's the extent of that? What's the extent of the U.S. commitment? It means that the U.S. would come to Saudi Arabia's defense if it were attacked. That, of course, obviously brings in Iran. It brings in the question of a civilian nuclear program for Saudi Arabia, which is something the Saudis will want, but that potentially could be escalatory within the Middle East and make other countries want to have nuclear programs. It also involves, Eric, the question of weapon systems, the advanced weapon systems from the United States that the Saudis will want. And those are all topics that National Security Advisor Sullivan, no doubt, will be addressing today in Saudi Arabia. Please.
All right, very interesting. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Edward P. Joseph, for joining us and getting us all those insights there.
You're welcome.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.